As someone who constantly has solicitors knocking on my front door, I decided to create a fun Halloween-themed no solicitor sign, which I've named Former Solicitors. The handmade sign looks like a stone tombstone with each named carefully carved and each skull plaster cast. So if you want a festive yet serious sign for your front porch that blends perfectly with your Halloween display, you're in the right place. The sign is lightweight yet sturdy, and it's an original design that I created, one that you can make yourself too. So join me for this easy DIY tutorial. To begin making our Halloween no solicitor sign, we need insulation foam board. Now I'm using the 2-inch thick insulation board, and they come in sheets of 4 foot by 8 foot. You could also go with 1-inch board, but the 2-inch is definitely very sturdy and I like that. We also need plywood. You can use OSB board or plywood. It can be 1/2 inch or smaller if you want. This is simply going to be the backing of our foam board, because when we lean it against the wall, we want to make sure it has a sturdy back. Next, we're going to be using some Plaster of Paris. We need some paint. We need a Dremel tool. We need a bunch of stuff, but I made it super simple for the viewer to find out exactly what I'm using. Down below, if you hit more, I list everything I use, the paints, the equipments, the tools. I list it all with a link so that you can get it again. I don't make any money from these links, so if you find it at a different location for a better price, go for it. But let's get started with this super easy and fun Halloween tutorial. Hey everyone, just a quick pause. I wanted to announce that my 3rd children's book has finally been published, and it's called The Ghost Who Dreamed of Flying. It's a cute story about friendship, courage, and believing in yourself, and it's available right now on Amazon. So if anybody wants to support me, support this channel and these tutorials, I ask you to go check it out on Amazon. The link is in the description below, or just go over there and type in The Ghost Who Dreamed of Flying. Now let's get back to this amazing tutorial. All right, to make our plaster skulls, we need a mold. I got this one online. I'll link the same one I used, but just any type of plaster mold of a skull will work. I have this little container to hold it right over here. Next, we need Plaster of Paris. We need a measuring cup, and we need PVC. Now I've cut this one to about 6 or 7 inches. You put a screw through it. This is important. Put a screw through it. It doesn't matter the size really, as long as it's a few inches above the line of the skull mold. We're going to put it in like this. When the plaster is inside, it'll stand like that. So once it dries, we'll be able to take it out, and then we have something that it can hold on to. We can trim this if we want later, but the size really isn't that important. So for this size that I'm using, I'll link this one below. For this one, we need 3.5 cups of Plaster of Paris to 2 cups of water, okay? We'll do that. We'll get our mixing bowl. We'll mix it up really nicely, and then we'll pour it inside. We'll put this just like that, holding up like that. And normally within an hour it's dry, but I like to give it a few hours to really dry before I pop it out. And that's how we make them. All right, here's the board now that it's been cut. It's 62 inches long by 20 inches wide. You can make yours smaller or bigger, but I decided to do this nice little top area over here. And it's perfect. It's ready for the next part, which is using a Dremel tool to carve out names of things. Now, it's easy if you do it with a handheld Dremel tool that I'm going to link below. You can try using an X-Acto knife. It won't be as pretty. Anytime I use X-Acto knife, it always looks rough. So what we're going to do now is we're going to print the names of what we want each of the skulls to say. So, pest control, solar, whatever it is, we're going to print it out on a regular sheet of paper. Once you print it out, we're going to use some Elmer's purple washable glue. Wherever you're going to put the name, you put the glue first, then you put the sheet of paper with the printed name on it, making sure it's where you want it. Then we give it about an hour to dry. Then we can get our Dremel tool and carve it out. It is super simple to use a Dremel tool, so let's get started with that. But I like to map out first where I'm going to put things. So if you want to just use a marker or something like that with a soft tip, you can do it, or we can just freehand it and go with it. We've drilled some holes for the PVC pipes that are going to go behind each skull. And this is important because that's how you're going to attach the skull through the board and into the plywood for a steady hold. So all of the holes are separated from top to bottom by 15 inches. So you can do it in whichever pattern you want, but I thought this was the best to do it like this so that they're all nicely spaced out 15 inches away from each other, top to bottom. And this is what I'm talking about, the PVC. Once you cast these with Plaster of Paris, I always put this 1/2 inch PVC that's about 5 or 6 inches so that it's easier for you to pull out of the mold, and then this can go as extra support once you put it into the hole. So this is where we have to be careful because we want everything to look dress right dress. I'm going to measure down about 2.5 inches, right? Once I measure down, I've marked it right there. Then you cut out your piece. See, we have them all right here. You just cut it out like this. What we want to do is we want to center it. Make sure you put the words, and the line that we did is going to go on the bottom. That's going to be your guide. So we have it there. We get something like a level. You do this, and then you do a gentle line, nothing crazy. I actually prefer using marker instead of pen because it'll leave an indentation. So use a marker, okay? Don't do what I just did right now. But essentially, that line we drew is going to be a guide for you to know exactly where to put the words so that they're nice and straight. You can actually see the line through, but it's easier with a marker. So once you've got that, you get your Elmer's purple washable marker, put it all over here. Then get it right here and put it on the back of the paper. Really nice. You get it? You make sure you align it to the line, make sure it's nice and straight, pat it down, and then you wait about an hour. After we're done, then we can begin the Dremel process, which is very, very easy. So we're going to do all of those, moving this aside like that, doing all of that so we can have that carved. We also need to write something over here on the top. Whatever you want to do, you can write it up here, but I'm going to be creative and do something there. And last but not least, let me show you right down here. Let's move all the way down to the last one over here. This hole right here, this one is going to remain empty. There's not going to be a skull, but we're going to write something like, you go here, or this could be you, something cool indicating that, hey, look what happened to the other guys, so we have a space reserved for you. And this is what we're left with. We have everything carved out. It took me about 30 minutes to carve everything out. And now we're ready to distress this board. Because I think it's going to look neat if this board looks more like a tombstone, like a stone tombstone. So we're going to use an X-Acto knife to make some cracks wherever you want. Just use an X-Acto knife to make some cracks. We're going to use a heat gun to harden some areas, but the heat gun should never be placed on the holes or the words or the designs because it'll deform them. So if you just want some rough areas, use heat gun in different places to give it a nice distressed look. All right, and this is what we're left with. We roughened it up, made it look a little bit aged. Now we're going to paint it with a light gray color. And after it's done and dried, we're going to add some darker areas, some white on the high points, maybe some greens and browns, just to make it look really aged like a tombstone. You can't go wrong with the paint job because it doesn't matter if you mix and match, we'll age it really nicely either way. One of the last things we're going to do is cut a piece of plywood a little bit smaller than our board. This is going to go behind it. And as you can see, we drilled holes where these holes are so the PVC pipe can go through them. So this part over here is optional. You don't have to do the holes. You could just cut the PVC shorter, but I said let's just go with these holes. So we're going to apply some expanding foam all on the board, and then we're going to put our foam board on top of it and make sure it lines up with the holes. And then to attach these skulls, we're going to put expanding foam inside each of these holes right here. And then we're going to put the skull with the PVC pipe in them, and we're just going to let it rest on the floor just like this. Be sure to check out my 3 children's books, Oliver and the Lost Flame, Little Olive and the Wally Bad, and my newest book, The Ghost Who Dreamed of Flying, now available on Amazon.